In the United States, a good childhood can feel like a second full-time job. You are scheduling everything. You are paying for everything. You are driving everywhere. You are stressed about grades, safety, screens, and the next bill. And the scariest part is this. Even when you do everything right, you still feel behind. Now contrast that with Norway, a place where parents still worry, but the baseline is different. The system does more of the heavy lifting. And that changes what good parenting even means. Today we are answering one question. Why Norwegian kids seem happier than American kids? But I'm not giving you a soft, feel-good answer like, they just play outside more. We are following the hidden math. The time math, the money math, and the stress math. And here is the open loop we are going to solve together. If Norway is so family-friendly, why do Norwegian parents still argue about pressure, identity, and what childhood is supposed to look like? What is the trade-off nobody explains until the final chapter? Finding number 1. Time is the first currency. In America, childhood happiness often depends on how much spare time your family can afford to buy. That sounds harsh, but look at the structure. If your job gives you flexibility, your kids get flexibility. If your job does not, your kids feel that stress at home. Norway rigs the system differently. Work and family time are not treated like competing hobbies. They are treated like two parts of the same national design problem. That matters because kids do not just experience your parenting. They experience your pace. In the United States, many families are trying to raise calm children inside a system that creates chronic urgency. That urgency leaks into parenting. You rush them in the morning. You rush pickup. You rush dinner. Then you wonder why bedtime turns into a negotiation. Then a hard cut to slower, quieter Norwegian afternoons. Then a quick on-screen graphic. Pace is a parenting variable. If your work schedule stayed exactly the same, but you suddenly gained 5 free hours per week, would your kids' mood improve first or would your stress level improve first? Tell me which one changes the household faster. Finding number 2, the leave gap that sets the tone. Now let's talk about the moment childhood begins. The first year. In Norway, the first year is not designed to be a scramble. It is designed to be a guarantee. Parents get about 50 weeks at full pay, or about 59 weeks at reduced pay. And a meaningful chunk is reserved specifically for dads, so the care load is shared early instead of turning into a permanent default. In the United States, there is no national paid parental leave. The most common federal protection is job-protected leave that is unpaid, and not everyone qualifies for it. So the comparison is not Norwegian parents love their kids more. The comparison is this. Norway gives many parents more time to bond without financial freefall. America often asks parents to bond while calculating rent. That early financial pressure shapes the emotional climate of a home. Because when your nervous system is constantly negotiating money, your patience becomes expensive. A lot of Americans assume Norwegian kids are happier because they have less discipline. That is not the core difference. The core difference is that fewer parents are forced into crisis mode parenting at the very start. Finding number 3, childcare is capped, and that changes family power. Here is where the hidden math becomes painfully clear. The childcare costs. As of 2025, Norway capped full-time kindergarten childcare at 2,000 kroner per month. That is under $200 a month in rough conversion terms. In many U.S. cities, that would not cover a single week. This does not mean childcare is free. It means it is predictable. And predictability is a form of psychological safety for parents. In the U.S., childcare costs can resemble a second mortgage. So families make impossible trade-offs. One parent scales back career plans. A family delays having another child. Or you run your household permanently overclocked, hoping nothing breaks. Norway also has extremely high kindergarten participation. About 93.8% of children aged 1 to 5 attend Barnehage. That changes childhood in a quiet way. It reduces the sense that only certain kids get access to stability. And it reduces the status anxiety that spreads when classmates live in totally different realities. US scenario spikes sharply. Norway scenario stays flatter and more predictable. If your city capped full-time childcare at the equivalent of a few $100s a month, would that save your family or would it feel like government overreach? Give me one sentence with your honest reaction. Finding number 4. The outdoor default is not a vibe, i.e. is culture plus infrastructure. People love to joke that Norwegian kids are outside in weather that would trigger a US school closure. But the outdoor life is not just aesthetic. It is a default setting. In the US, outdoor play often competes with 4 things at the same time. Liability fears, car-first street design, safety anxiety, and the simple lack of nearby public space that feels truly usable. So parents compensate. They buy play. They buy structured activities. They buy supervision. Norway normalizes independence earlier. Not because parents are careless. Because the environment is built for it. This changes a child's internal story. American kids often learn. Safety comes from adult oversight. Norwegian kids more often learn. Safety comes from competence, routine, and community norms. Go cooler and brighter outdoors. Show kids walking to a play area, then cut to a graphic. Supervision culture versus independence culture. Finding number 5. When a child gets sick, the system does not punish you. This chapter is about a tiny moment that determines a parent's stress level for years. Your child wakes up sick on a workday. In Norway, parents have defined sick child days. If you have 1 or 2 children, it is 10 days per parent per year. If you have 3 or more children, it increases to 15 days. If you are a single parent, it can be 20 days. In the US, many parents do not have dedicated paid caregiving days. So that morning becomes a negotiation. You use PTO if you have it. You risk consequences if you do not. Or you send a sick child to school because you cannot afford not to. Norway reduces how often parents get trapped in that moral dilemma. And fewer moral traps means calmer parenting over time. US version has branches and dead ends. Norway version has clearer, simpler paths. Finding number 6, cash support is small, but the signal is massive. Now let's talk about a policy that sounds boring until you feel it monthly. Child benefit. In Norway, the government sends a monthly child benefit that depends on age. As of late 2025 into 2026 context, it is about 2,046 kroner per month for children ages 0 to 6, and 1,766 kroner per month for children ages 6 to 18. This will not make anyone rich. That is not the point. The point is what it signals. It says, children are not a private luxury project. Society expects them, and society shares part of the responsibility. It is not enough to buy a lifestyle, but it is enough to buy shoes, books, and fruit. It is a monthly reminder that the state has skin in the game. In the US, family support often feels conditional, complex, and politically fragile. So families build their lives on uncertainty. And kids are emotional accountants. They track stress even when nobody explains it. If you like this kind of hidden math breakdown where we compare the American dream to the Nordic reality without romanticizing either side, subscribe to Nexora. You are joining an ongoing investigation into one question: what actually buys quality of life, and what just looks impressive on paper? Norway is perfect is the wrong take. Now let's kill the biggest misconception. Norway is not a parenting utopia. Norway has low absolute poverty compared to many countries. But on relative poverty measures, it is not always sitting at the top. It lands closer to the middle or top third range depending on the dataset and year, which surprises people who assume Nordic means problem-free. So no, Norway does not eliminate hardship. And Norwegian parents still argue about pressure points. The more accurate claim is this: Norway reduces the number of catastrophic stress collisions a typical family faces at the same time. That creates more emotional bandwidth for parenting. If you want the next episode to audit one specific system where you live, comment your city or state and pick one. 1. Childcare costs. 2. School pressure. Or work-life time math. I will be in the comments for the first 2 hours after this drops to answer the most specific questions. The trade-off nobody says out loud. Let's close the mystery from the beginning. If Norway is so family-friendly, Why do Norwegian parents still debate pressure, identity, and what childhood is supposed to feel like? Because Norway's model trades individual customization for collective predictability. You get a higher floor, but you sometimes feel the cultural ceiling. The obvious trade-off is taxes. A stronger safety net costs real money, and Norway funds it. But the less obvious trade-off is social. There is a cultural gravity that discourages standing out too much. Do not think you are better than others, pressure that can keep status competition lower, but can also feel suffocating for kids who want to be loud, extra, or radically individualistic. In America, the cultural default is closer to main character energy. Be exceptional. Be the brand. That can be motivating. It can also turn childhood into a performance. So here is the cleanest comparison. America can offer an extremely high ceiling if you have money, flexibility, and stability. But the floor can be brutal if you do not. Norway's ceiling may feel less flashy, but more families can stand on the floor without falling through. And that is the real answer to why Norwegian kids seem happier than American kids. It is not just parenting style. It is the stress architecture surrounding the parent. It is the default settings of time, childcare costs, and economic predictability. So if you are a US parent watching this, the takeaway is not move to Norway. The takeaway is to identify what is a personal choice and what is structural advantage. Then you decide what you can replicate locally, even inside an American system. If you want to keep going, watch the next episode in our Norway versus USA series where we break down work-life balance into actual weekly minutes and what that does to family time in the real world. Would you rather raise a child in a system with a higher ceiling for individual success or a higher floor for everyday stability? Pick one, and tell me what you would be willing to give up to get it.